Okay, in this video I will be showing how to wire an older MSD 3-stage retard box. Okay, with these boxes you have to make sure that your activation wires, you have your first, second, and third stage. You always have to make sure that these are wired directly to the wire coming off the relay that's actually going out to the solenoid. So what happens is you have to have a return ground path through the coil itself. If you remove the ground path, say if you just have it hooked up to the activation side, you won't have a good ground path signal back to the box, and what happens is whatever chip you have in the box, it will change your timing by the number that you have, the number of the chip that you have in there. On the newer boxes like the Digital 7 boxes and the MSD Grid, boxes like that, it doesn't matter. You can just unplug the solenoids from the harness and check your timing. They have they do it internally inside the box, and these do not. So like I said, you always make sure that these activation wires are always hooked to the wire going to the solenoids from the relay. And on this particular one, we're not running a third stage, so you always make sure that whatever the third stage, which I believe, if I remember correctly, it's gray wire on these, you always make sure this is grounded to a good ground point. And I like to put it over, somewhere with the relays. That way later down the road, if you ever add anything, you could just, undo it from the ground and hook it up to another relay. Or put a 0 chip. I like to do both, just to be a little on the safe side. And I always, with these are prone to failing. I've replaced a lot of them over the years. Really don't use them much anymore, but I always make sure on the actual MSD box with these, you always keep the trigger wire. That way, if something ever happens, a car stops running, you can always just disconnect the trigger wire from the retard box, because that's the trigger wire that comes straight from the distributor or crank trigger, or crank trigger. That way you can hook it up to the box to see if this box has failed. Of course, if it starts when you hook it up to this box, then this box is bad. And these boxes also have a what's called start retard, because usually these are fixed timing. And what this does is it removes a certain amount of degrees when you're cranking. So this will get hooked to the starter activation, and then you have your white points trigger that you don't use. This would go to, say, if you have points on an old distributor, this would fire this box, and then this box, the yellow wire comes off this box and fires your main ignition box, and then you have power and ground. Always make sure, again, as I've stated in my previous video, I always like to solder stuff, mainly due to vibration and corrosion resistance, because that is definitely something that you do not want to happen, is it not pull timing when it's supposed to. That would be very detrimental. And that's it for now. Thanks for watching.